This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and today I have a man that's a couple times WWE Tag Team Champions, multiple time Pro Wrestling Noah Tag Team Champions, former Great North Wrestling Canadian Champion, host of the Cafe de Rene WWE segment, and now the Cafe de Rene successful YouTube podcast. How are you doing today, sir? Rene Dupree from La Resistance.
I'm doing great, Devin. How you doing, bud?
I'm recovering from an injury, and it's getting better and better. So I'm happy about that.
What injury do you have now?
I had a shattered heel, and it's been
Ooh,
a long journey to get over, but it's
ooh.
coming to an end finally.
It seems like the older we get, the longer it takes to recuperate from injuries, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. How are you feeling? You look good from the videos I've seen of you.
Yeah, I've been training like a madman since my father passed away. It's like I don't know, something clicked in me, and I wake like most of my days were spent taking care of him, right? So now I got all this time on my hands. So I wake up, I go straight to the gym for an hour, and then I'll do two more workouts during the day, usually 20 to 30-minute workouts, one body part at a time. So, and then as always, you know me, I like to follow my diet to a T. So, yeah, I want to be able to wrestle as long as I possibly can without embarrassing myself physically in the ring. You know what I mean? Once I start looking like she is it, then I'll know it's time to hang him up.
Yeah, I think with stem cells now and all these new advances in medical technologies, people can wrestle a lot longer. Not to mention the schedule is way easier.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, should I make more for one match than I would make for like a month working for my dad?
What do you think about like all the money in wrestling now? Like because when we were in it and you were at it to a higher level than me, there was
Mm,
only one company, so they could
mm.
basically dictate how much they paid everyone. Now
Yep,
I hear the minimum pay for a main roster WWE is 350,000 and the minimum AEW is 150 and half the AEW roster they don't even use. They're just
I
sitting at
know,
home collecting a check.
I know. It's amazing. I mean, when it comes tax time, though, I mean, how many write-offs do they have? That's the one thing. I mean, unless they buy a shit ton of gear, and I'm talking like wrestling gear, not gear. But mm, yeah, in one way, AEW is good for that, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of killing the independent scene, and it's definitely killing like the Japanese wrestling scene, big time.
Yeah, I've noticed that would you agree that like New Japan is at its all-time lowest interest level? Because it seems that way
In
from what
North
I've been
America,
reading.
definitely, yeah, and especially in Japan, because I talked to a lot of the higher ups in Japanese wrestling, and yeah, Japanese wrestling's bad. I mean, Jesus Christ, they put their U.S. title or their IWGP title on Moxley for fuck's sakes.
Yeah, do you find it weird that Khan almost prioritizes other companies over his own? Because like Rampage and Collision, for instance, very often you see the stars on it, but they sent like Mercedes Monet to CMLL last Friday, yet she's
Mm,
not even on the AEW shows. Like, wouldn't you want to have her on the show that you don't have a new contract for yet? Do you want to
listen,
try and pop a rating?
I don't know, man. When you got all the money in the world and daddy lets you play with it, I mean, I guess you do what you want, right? And listen, I wouldn't be surprised if in a decade or so we get like some type of documentary where WWE was behind AEW the whole time. You know what I mean? And it was just the conquest to kill New Japan Pro Wrestling and the independent scene and take control of the independent scene.
What do you
You know,
think
because
of?
there was a time there. There was a time, Devin, like 2010 ish to like 2017, 18. I think you would agree that the independent scene, guys were making legitimate living on the independents, especially like UK with what culture, and New Japan was on the rise. I mean, New Japan sold out the Madison Square Garden for Christ's sake.
Yeah, they did, and they sure as hell couldn't do that now.
No way, not a chance, not even coming close. You know, so um, yeah, I mean, it's good for some of the guys. I mean, they're getting a guaranteed paycheck. I mean, they're not getting any better. How can you working once a week, right? And a lot of them are getting entitled and lazy because now they get all this free money from Tony Khan. They're expecting all this big money from the independents. And listen, just because you were seen on AEW once doesn't make you a star. Okay. I think it was Arn Anderson one time. He had told me, or told a group of us, it takes 52 weeks straight on Raw, and Raw at the time was the A show. 52 weeks straight of being highlighted, like, um, being highlighted positively, as in going up. 52 weeks straight on a show like Raw to really get established and get a name. And I think he was absolutely right on that.
It seems like they almost have too big a roster to be able to get people over. To
I,
me,
that,
anyways.
I
Like,
think that's their plan. I think that's exactly what they want. They want WWE to be the draw, WrestleMania to be the draw, SummerSlam to be the draw, Royal Rumble to be the draw. They don't want any individual. You know what I mean? Like they want WWE's coming to town, okay, like the Ice Capades or like Cirque du Soleil or like whatever. It's the brand that's the draw, not the actual individual. You know what I mean?
now that I hear WWE is probably never going to come to New Brunswick or the Maritimes again, since they don't really want to go to the smaller markets. If they do, maybe we'll
Mm,
see them in Halifax. Do you
mm.
think that there's going to be an opening for maybe a company like your dad used to have to get something more going as an independent
Oh,
circuit?
it's too
And
oversaturated, Devin. There's so many promotions now. It's ridiculous, and some of them are just, without naming names, some of them are just a joke. You know what I mean? Like I work for some of them. You know what I mean? I mean, if they're gonna hand me money, I can't say no, right? But I mean, when you got literally 20 different promotions in a small area like the Maritimes, I mean, you can only cut the pizza, so many times. You can only have so many slices, right? And I mean, wrestling is a niche product as is. And then, you know, so whatever, dude. Just take what you can while we still can. You know.
exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, we see some guys that aren't really that well known in Canada making money in AEW. Would you ever accept one of these contracts for doing next to nothing? For some reason, I don't know why they wouldn't approach a guy like you who has more name value than a lot of these guys that I'm not even going to bother to mention because they're not worth mentioning. But like, it's strange who they pick.
uh, you know how it is, Devin. Either you like me or you don't like me when it comes to me. Some people like me, a lot of people don't like me. And I could quite frankly give a damn. I don't care. I'm me, and I'm not going to change for anybody.
One guy, and I'm not going to get into the incident that you had an incident with back years ago in WWE that didn't like you, was Bob Holly. What the hell happened to him? He's like disappeared off the face of the earth.
Old. He got he must be 65. Christ,
Yeah.
I'm 40. He was 20. No, he's around 61 years old. You know what I mean? Last I seen Bob was in England, and I didn't even say hi to him, and that made him mad. And I could give two fucks. And the time before that I seen him, he was at a signing in New Jersey, and they were supposed to be used on a Wrestle Pro show that's run by Pat Buck. I think he was an agent for WWE. Now he's an agent for AEW, and he refused to put over Brian Cage. So they just said, "Screw him. We never want to use you." So
Brian Cage is one guy that I know he's making really good money. He just re-signed, but
yeah,
he's kind of just collecting a check too.
yeah.
Certainly.
I mean, look at Jake Roberts. I mean, God bless the guy. I mean, they never use him, and with a mind like that, just the pro mobility alone, just to use him as a mouthpiece. You know what I mean? I mean, but
Yeah.
hey,
They
excuse
didn't
me,
use him in Ottawa here. They gave me free tickets to see that. Lance Cade was wrestling. Jake had just re-signed, and I'm like, he would have
Lance
got
Cade.
literally, or sorry, Lance Archer. I always get
Lance
the name
Archer.
confused.
Yeah,
But like, yeah, no, there wasn't a ghost. But like, Jake literally would have got one of the biggest pops of the night. And
yeah.
then they advertised Moxley, Jericho, they advertised FTR, they advertised Christian. None of them were there. It's like, why
Bad
put these
business.
guys on the poster?
Bad business. What's going to happen if they try to return? It's bad
Exactly. They
business.
advertised Moxley for every single Canadian show this year, and he hasn't appeared on any of them.
There you go. Bad business. Amateur hour wrestling. Amateur hour promoting. All right. That's the worst thing you can do. The worst thing you can do. The first rule of promoting is always bring what you advertise. Devin, when I brought you here to Prince Edward Island and your flight got delayed, what happened? What did I do? I spent over a
You,
thousand.
yeah,
I
be on
spent
a
over.
first class flight
I
to get
spent
there.
over $1,000 to get you here because you were advertised. That's the number one rule my father taught me. If you advertise something, you have to have it there. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, Tony Khan's got all his daddy's money to play with, and he doesn't have a clue what he's doing as a promoter.
And I don't think he cares. I think I'll have to agree with CM Punk on this. He says Tony will stay in business as long as he wants because there's an unlimited amount of money and he doesn't run it like a business, but he doesn't seem to care at all. What even happened? Like they did the angle where they broke his neck or something. Then suddenly the Young Bucks are in control of the company, and we never even get a reason why Tony Khan's all of a sudden back, and like it just
Well,
doesn't make any sense.
he broke his neck, and then he was on like an NFL conference, press conference or whatever, right, with the neck brace. But he's like turning his head. If your neck's broke, dude, you can't turn your head. Learn to sell, you moron. Jesus Christ. I mean, kudos to him for putting the neck brace on, but learn how to sell it properly, you dumbass.
Every picture I saw from that, he has a big smile on his face. So yes, it gets
Right,
publicity, but it's like this is a joke. People just look
right.
at it like, oh, this is stupid.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of promoting, I just got my brand new Cafe de Rene jumpsuits. That's right. They're zip up. Hold on a second. I gotta show you the pants. I gotta stand up. So these are Cafe de Rene, and I don't know if you can see the back. Cafe de Rene, right there. You can go on my Shopify. You can go on my Shopify and purchase it. They're 125 US dollars. If you're Canadian, you can e-transfer Rene Dupree booking at hotmail.com, 125 US dollars, and it'll be shipped the very next day. I also have mugs for sale right here, and I also have t-shirts looking good, boys, looking real good, amongst other merchandise, hoodies, and more to come. Okay, I'm sorry, I had to plug myself now. Back to your questions, Devin.
Oh, the jumpsuit looks nice. I'll give you that.
Thanks,
Well,
man.
let's talk about this show. I know Jack Kilby, who's running Great North Wrestling now. He did an
Yeah.
interview with Nathan Banner, and he wanted me to show you this clip here of what
Oh.
they had to say about you. So
Oh.
I'll put it up on the screen right now,
Okay.
and you can respond to it.
Okay.
I have to admit, Nathan Banner sucked up a hell of a lot to WWE in this interview.
Did
For
he really?
whatever reason, I don't know, but
Wants a job?
Rene Dupree,
all
this
right.
isn't personal. It's just business. But on the 29th, you'll definitely realize what happens when you mess with Jack and the big money players.
Well, it isn't. It isn't personal, and it honestly, it wasn't personal for me either. But when you step that across that line, and you cross me for
Off the
no
boss.
reason, then there's going to be consequences. So when we had the discussion, I automatically got very excited because Rene Dupree has his eyes on the Canadian title right now that's held by Magna McLaren of the big money players. But in order to get that shot, he's going to have to get through you. And what we've talked about off air is not only do I want him out of Great North Wrestling, we're not even going to have to worry about him in the Canadian title. That'll be in the archive. But I want him, and I know you're professional, but I'll tell you what he did to me. He concussed me with my briefcase. I was suffering for 2 weeks. That's a shoot with headache symptoms. Wasn't a good situation. So I'd like for you to maybe make an exception and take care of Mr. Dupree, period. Have you ever, I take it you've never wrestled Rene, but you're aware of his credentials, etc.
Oh, I'm definitely well aware of Rene's credentials. I believe he got signed at 18, 19. I definitely followed his career. Great talent. But when you cross the boss, Rene, you got to have deep pockets, my man. Exception or not, June 29th, I'm not coming. I'm not coming to put on a show. I'm not some circus animal or carnival freak. Mm-mm. I'm coming for a fight, Rene. You said it yourself on your little podcast the other day. You don't expect any high flying, any. I don't, you can expect my fist in your face. I'll tell you that.
Nice haircut, by the way, Nathan Banner. At least he's got hair, I guess.
Boy, let's pack up. Let's pack up the car. Let's pack up the car, boys and girls. Come on, kids. Let's go. Let's go watch. Jesus, you're gonna have to be better than that, Nathan. Christ Almighty. Listen, okay. Apparently, this guy had a few half-ass tours of Japan. Apparently, he's done some stuff on the independents that I don't really follow, but I crossed the bus. Yeah, you're right. I crossed the bus. Jack Kilby wants to be a wrestler. He wants to be involved in the wrestling business. Well, I gave him a rude awakening. I knocked his ass out. And guess what? If he tries to interfere again, I'll knock his ass out again. And Nathan, the time you spent in Japan, how much time did you really spend in Japan? Did you spend 15 years in Japan? Did you live in the dojos like I did? Did you train in the dojos like I did? Did you train shoot fighting with guys like Minoru Suzuki and Masakatsu Funaki and Sakuraba like I did? Well, let's find out if you did, because I did. And trust me, the character that you saw in WWE was just that. It was a character. I was playing a French guy from France, which, by the way, I'll be going back to France July 12th in Nice, France, because when your name's Rene Dupree, you're wanted worldwide. And but first comes first, this Saturday, Napanee, Ontario, and Mr. Banner, you're in for the fight of your life. Rex Gardner, he's a good friend of mine. What's going on, Rex? Okay.
There you go. I mean, to me, you look like you're in better physical shape than him. I've wrestled him. He is a tough guy. He can take a beating. He looks like he's cut down some weight since the last time I saw him, but I think cardio, once it gets going, might be an issue. So I'd bet my money on you in that particular one. But then again, he's got Jack Kilby on the outside.
Well, are you going to be around? Are you going to be around?
Yeah, I'll be around for this.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, maybe if I pass you a few bucks, you can keep an eye on Jack Kilby for me there, Mr. Devin.
I'm always looking for some extra money. By the way, you mentioned earlier your father passed away.
Yeah.
I know you were very close with him, and he taught you a lot over the years, gave you some good advice. You were also like he had you much later in life. Could you tell us anything about your father for the people that might be from the U.S. that aren't familiar with the promotion up there?
Well, let's see. He started wrestling in 1955 or 56. He got trained up here on the beach by a bunch of local shooters. He did a local show, and there just so happened to be a promoter from Boston who was in the area looking for talent, basically looking for cheap talent, because he was an American promoter looking for cheap Canadian talent, right? And then my dad was a really good looking guy, had a really good looking physique. So as soon as the promoter saw him, he saw money. So the promoter told him, the promoter's name was Tony Santos. He ran an outfit out of Boston, the same American territory where Pat Patterson broke into. So the difference between Pat and my dad is that Pat had a family to buy him a Greyhound bus ticket. My father had no family, so he had to hitchhike. So that's where he got his start. And, sometimes he wrestled for a hot dog and a Coke. Sometimes he got $15 if he was lucky. And he definitely paid his dues the hard way, saved every dime he ever got. And then he quickly realized that if you want to make the big money in wrestling, promoting was where it's at. So he came to his hometown, his home area of the Maritimes, and started promoting as well as wrestling. He would spend his winters down south in the United States working for various promoters such as Vince McMahon Sr., such as Jim Crockett Sr., such as Vern Gagne, old man Funk Sr., all the old school Jim Barnett, my boy. He did several tours of Australia for Jim Barnett, and Johnny Doyle, who was Jim Barnett's business partner. And he started when he come back home. Eventually, he worked for local promoters, but then eventually took over the book. He took over the promotion in the 60s. And in the 1970, I believe 77 or 78, he teamed up with Angelo Poffo, who is the father of the Macho Man Randy Savage and Leaping Lanny Poffo. And Angelo Poffo helped him learn the television aspect of the thing, and that's when he started his own television show. He always had good relationships. Well, that's the way it worked back then, Devin. All the promoters worked together before Vince Jr. came along and wanted to monopolize everything. Promoters worked together. My father had a good relationship with Stu Hart, and he would get the tapes from Stampede and air them out here on the East Coast, and they would trade talent, And my dad broke in guys like Don Jardine, the original Spoiler. So a lot of people who may not know who that is, well, you know who the Undertaker is. You know what the old school is, where he walks the top rope. Well, that's the guy who invented it. And you know where old school was created? It was created in my backyard. A lot of Undertaker's mannerisms were copied by Don Jardine. And if you ask any old school guy from Steve Austin to Jake Roberts to Stan Hansen, just how influential John Jardine was to the Texas wrestling scene, from guys like Hanson to Brody to Taker to Austin, you name it. And then there was the Cormier brothers, Leo Burke, who was very well known on the Canadian scene here, especially here in the Maritimes and in Calgary. If you read Bret Hart's book, he credits Leo Burke for teaching him psychology. My father broke in all those guys, the Cormier brothers. Go read, for all these young wrestlers out there that think their shit don't stink, go read a book. And I'm not talking Chris Jericho, and I'm not talking, other fucking Jay Browns that write books. Go read a Stan Hansen book, for example. Go read an Arn Anderson book or a Vern Gagne book or an Ole Anderson, actually. Go read one of his books. The old school promoters will tell you exactly how it was. You know what I mean? And then you might learn a thing or two about wrestling.
I remember when I was doing the interview with J.J. Dillon, at one point he was coming in as part of the opposition to your father, and it didn't end up working out. They ended up going out of business. What was that all about? And what do you think about JJ?
Yeah, they found a money mark. Surprise, surprise. A money mark in wrestling. And but the thing is, my father was local, so he had a lot of local friends that had local connections. He was good friends with the Irvings. Casey Irving, who was a big wrestling fan, had a cottage right next to my father's home, by the bluff here, right by the Parley Beach. So they would come over for dinner all the time. And, my father had connections with the main guy with the newspaper. Back then, if you were friends with the Irvings and you're friends with the top guy with the top newspaper and top guy with the television, we had the better television. We had the better connections financially, the better sponsors, and it just worked out in his favor. You know what I mean? And my father was a very giving guy, because you know how much he charged guys to train?
Nothing.
Zero. Not a goddamn dime. And a lot of those same people would turn around and stab him in the back. And surprise, surprise, how history repeats itself, because I've done a lot of great things for a lot of good people. Wait, let me rephrase that. I thought I was doing good things for good people, and they ended up stabbing me in the back just to get ahead. So what they say is true. DTA, don't trust anybody.
Yeah, especially in wrestling. What do you think about this? I guess Tony Khan talked about it today. He says Shane McMahon is always welcome in AEW. Do you think that could be one of the things that could help them kind of get out of the gutter and get popular again? I know you know Shane.
If Shane McMahon joins AEW, that'll just solidify that WWE owns AEW, in my mind.
To me, with everyone, like, TNA hasn't even got a 0.01 rating, and I think months now. Like, the actual product itself is dead, but they did give NXT a bit of a buzz for a while, although apparently yesterday they did their worst rating in a while. It was still better than Dynamite did last week, though. But do you think WWE owns or is funding TNA? Because all the other invasions we've seen, like with ECW and WCW, they've actually owned those companies.
Yeah, exactly. WWE's got so much money and they control the market. And I think Hunter has a different mindset. I think he has more of a mindset like a Vince Sr., where instead of Vince Jr. wanting to annihilate everybody and completely put everybody out of business, he understands that the business needs talent to strive, to survive. So instead of trying to kill everybody, why don't help them out here and there, and help them out financially, maybe help them out with some talent. That way, they can use some new talent, some new faces, and it creates a healthier environment for everybody and more jobs for everybody, so more people can earn a living doing this this sport that you and I both can't seem to get away from, can we, Devin? no matter how hard we
No.
try.
Well, the thing is, you're probably like me. Like I can't even watch the highlights, the 3-minute highlights of these shows. It makes me too mad. But I'm still a wrestling fan.
Yeah,
I'll still watch the old stuff, and I'll
100%.
pop if something good is up.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be a friend. I'll be a fan of wrestling for life, and I'll always love it. And like you said, if you pop in an old match from the '80s, fuck, I'll sit there and watch it, And I did watch WrestleMania this year, and I'll have to admit, night two, they hooked me, man. They did a hell of a job. But to sit there week after week for hours on end trying to follow, no, thank you. I'm 40 years old, man. I got better things to do, like sleep.
Now we hear starting next year. Speaking of night two, SummerSlam is now going to be a second night. To me, it really waters it down. I understand why they're doing it business wise, but do you think ultimately it'll create less interest in those events, or do you think you can't say no if you're getting the money for it? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, shit, if they're selling out and they're making the money, boom. I mean, look at Metallica, right? Like everywhere Metallica goes, they're running 2 nights, right? Because they got so much material that they can, and they're so over that they can sell out 2 nights in a row. So if WWE can do it, boom. I heard they even have their own like theme park in Saudi Arabia now.
Yeah, I've heard that there's something being built if it's not already happened, and they're getting 50 million an event there, and if they actually get one of the major pay-per-views, it's going to be even more.
Wow. So I mean, hats off to them. Financially, they're the kings, and when you have that kind of money, why not try to invest in little promotions like TNA, like NWA, just to help, have more people earn a living, and then eventually a diamond in the rough will come out, and then you can use them on your television. You know what I mean? So as long at one point in time, there was thousands of people who could earn a hell of a living, doing what we were doing, what we do. So hopefully, with Vince Jr. out of the fold and Monsieur Levac in the fold, things will change for the better. He was broken in by Killer Kowalski, who Kowalski was one of the rare guys that my father actually liked, because he and my father had a very good relationship. They wrestled each other all over the world. And so, I think who breaks you in has a big part on how you are in the business. You understand?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That may have worked out as a disadvantage for me.
Maybe not. Yeah, right. But like Kowalski, I mean, let's face it. Back in the 50s and 60s, the wrestling business was like a mafia. You know what I mean? And Kowalski was like a don. He was like a godfather in the business, right? So when you get breaking into a guy, I mean, look at all the guys that Kowalski broke in. A majority of them have been pretty successful.
As far as Vince McMahon, who you just brought up, his no-compete ends in January 2025. He's a multi-billionaire. There's rumors that maybe WWE has ties with TNA now, or maybe secretly is funding it, or has some. They are on the WWE's Endeavor's streaming service, so there's at least that connection. But
yeah,
there's rumors that they may have made a deal with TNA to avoid Vince possibly buying it,
no,
because he might be interested in getting into the wrestling business again. Could you see that happening if this blows over?
brother, in wrestling, never say never. It's expect the unexpected when it comes to professional wrestling, man. believe nothing of what you hear and 3/4 of what you see, and sometimes art does imitate life. But listen, I have to go to the bathroom because I have the bladder of an 85-year-old man. Do you want to end this interview a little quicker, or?
Sorry, you just froze. I didn't hear what you.
I said I got to go
No,
to the
that's
bathroom.
fine because I'm sure I can. Yeah, no, I can check in with you the day of the show. We are going to be trying to live stream it. So when you get there, we'll check in with the fans. So yes, if you're watching this in the U.S. or the Maritimes, other places in Canada. By the way, Napanee is only a 2-hour drive from Ottawa and Toronto. There's no excuse not to go to this. Paul Roma is going to be there, Rene Dupree, Angel Medina, me, Mario Mancini having his retirement match. A lot's going on. Tickets at ticketweb.ca. More information at thehannibaltv.com. I will see you there, Rene, but I'll let you close this off before you have to go take a piss. It's whatever you want to tell the fans.
All right. Well, Saturday, June 29th, Napanee, Ontario. Great North Wrestling. I mean, be there. It's going to be an action-packed full night of professional wrestling. And I'm just going to say it again. Professional wrestling. Hard-hitting pro wrestling. And I'm going to be there live. And I know a lot of Canadian folks were looking to purchase some of my my gear, and it's hard to purchase some of my stuff through my Shopify and stuff, but I'll be there live to take selfies, photos, and you can watch me live kick the living bejesus out of this Nathan Banner fella and that evil Jack Kilby son of a gun. I can't use